Hello everyone, we're back with a new tutorial how to cover a button, DIY an old button. So here it is. I have an old button from my cushion. I'm trying to reupholster my accent chair, and instead of buying new buttons, I went ahead and just used the material from the chair to cover the buttons. First thing what I did is cut out a square the size of the button, and then I rounded out the edges of the material that I'm going to use. I noticed that rounding out the edges makes it a little bit more uniform, and also there's not as much material gathered or bunching in the back of the button when it's rounded. So instead of doing a square, I rounded it out. I'm going to use E6000. This is my first time using this, but a lot of people have recommended it on YouTube for DIY projects. So this is my first time using it. I'm not putting a lot, just a dab here, a dab there. I also put some on the sides. There's a reason for putting them on the sides. I'll let you know as we proceed. I noticed that the E6000 just keeps coming out of the tube. It bleeds a lot. So it's very important that you cover when you're not using it. If not, you'll end up with a blob everywhere on your project or on the floor. So I'm centering the button, and next I'm going to fold in the edges. And this is just to make sure that it is evenly centered. Then I'm going to get my needle and thread and start stitching. Just a regular household needle, everyday needle, nothing fancy, no fancy sizes need. It's a normal needle. I'm using black thread because that is the color I've chosen to toughen my cushion. All I'm doing here is flattening the material against the back of the button. I'm going to go from side to side, making sure that the material is laid flat. Now, that was the reason for me cutting it into a circle. If I had kept it a square, there would have been a lot more bunching up in the back of the button. So cutting it into a circle eases that up. So right now, all I'm doing is going back and forth from side to side and pulling it to lay the material flat. Remember, there is glue there, so the glue will be holding it. The stitching is just for added security. I'm making sure that I do not cover that hook because I'm going to need that hook once I started the Tuff It section of my project. Right now, I'm just securing and flattening the material against the button by stitching it. It doesn't take a lot of thread, and it does not take a lot of time. And that's one thing I appreciate about this project. Here I am going back and forth, laying the material down. Now you notice the edges are a bit pointed. Don't worry about that. Remember that I put glue on the sides of the button. I'm going to squeeze the sides of the button or the perimeter of the button as I continue stitching, and that will push it down against the button and against the glue that is there. Now it's not going to come out perfect as in the event or if I had chosen to do it the right way, which is to buy the buttons. It comes in 2 pieces. You cut your circle, you snap it together, end of conversation. But I just wanted to reuse what I already have. So it's not going to look perfect, but that doesn't bother me because remember, this is for the seated part of the accent chair's cushion. People will be sitting on this part, so for me, I wasn't too worried about making it perfect. Yet I was very careful to make it as neat as possible. So at this point, you're looking at what the back looks like now. The gathering of the material is coming together nicely. It's not too bunchy. So as I stitch, I continuously press down to make sure it flattens very well. I'm constantly pushing, make sure it's not bunching up. Add a few more stitches to it, and then I'm going to close it off, cut it, and that's it. I'm going to insert a picture somewhere here or at the end of the video to show you what all of the buttons look like. But for the most part, it's as simple as cut out a circle, add the glue, stitch to flatten the material to the button. Make sure not to cover that hook. because you're going to need the hook to apply your tuffet design, okay? And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the thread now, show you what the back of the button looks like as well as the front of the button. That's the original. The original material is still on there, and all I did was cover over it. See, I'm pushing down the little pointed section to try and flatten it out as much as possible. And here are a few of the buttons that I've done early on. They weren't perfect, none of them are on the back side, but I like how it came out on the front side of the buttons. There you go. Not too shabby, I don't think. I think it was a pretty good job. And here is what it will look like once I attach it to the actual cushion. There you go. That's it. I thank you all for your time. I hope that something that I said today was helpful. Thank you.